biggest advantage is the money. Agency rates are higher. Hello, welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for tuning in. And I'd like to say a big thank you to my subscribers also for sticking around. In my last video, I mentioned that I'm going back to work with the NHS. I'm taking up a full-time permanent role after leaving the NHS for about 11 plus years. Just to give you a brief background, I trained as a mental health nurse in the UK and qualified in 2002. And from that time, I worked on different psychiatric inpatient units. I worked on acute, rehab, and challenging behaviors unit. So I did that for almost 12 years. And it got to a time that I think I had just had enough in terms of, feeling drained, physically, psychologically, mentally. And anyone who's worked on inpatient units, especially acute for a long time, or challenging behaviors unit, I think that they can attest to this fact that it can be draining. And for me at that time, I had just had enough. I needed to get out of the wards. So what did I do? I took early voluntary retirement, and this was in 2013. I took a 3-month break, and then when I came back, I started doing the agency locum work. So the focus of this video today is looking at the pros and cons of agency working or working as a locum, because I believe that having been in that position or worked in that position for the past 11 plus years, I believe I've learned a thing or two that hopefully will be beneficial to somebody, or will help somebody who finds themselves in a situation where they are considering whether to take up agency work or locum work for an extended period. Yeah, so just to explain some of the terminologies that we hear, this is for the benefit of those who are not conversant with these terms. And I know nurses who work in the UK, people know this, but for those who are new to the system, so we have bank staff, then we have agency staff or locum staff. Agency and locum is the same thing. But bank staff is mainly a pool of staff that are registered with a particular institution. So let's say you take a hospital, they have their bank. So the staff, the people working permanently in that hospital or health institution, they are also registered in this. It's like a backup list of nurses. So whenever they need nurses to fill a shift, maybe somebody's off sick on a ward or something's happened and they need extra staff, then they will call on the bank to fill the role. So it can be the bank staff can either work on their own ward, or they can work on another ward depending on where they want to work, so they can work in that hospital. The only thing with the bank staff is that the rates are not as high as compared to agency working. But when it comes to filling shifts, the hospital will give priority to those on the bank before they go to, hire agency nurses. So that is what bank staff is. And it's interesting that when I came into this country and I wasn't aware, I didn't know what bank staff is. And I remember I was studying, then I was doing my course before I trained as a mental health nurse. And then I was doing like HCA during my holidays. So I went to this place, and then I think it was a learning disability unit. So I went to do a shift there, and then some of the staff there came and we were chatting, and this lady said, oh, she came from the bank. So in my head, I'm thinking, coming from Ghana, the only bank I know is the bank where you go to get money or deposit money. So I was thinking in my head, so how can somebody comes from the bank and work in this place? But anyway, it was a learning experience. And later on, I found out that, it's a different kind of bank they were talking about. So yes, bank staff. And then we have agency or locum. So there are nurses who register with an external nursing agency or nursing recruitment agency. So these agencies, they are independent. They are not working under the hospital. So they recruit nurses, and then if a hospital, a home, or even private homes or wherever a nurse is needed, they will fill these shifts. They will, send nurses there to go and fill the shift. So that is agency or locum. Then even within agency and locum, there are two different kinds of shifts. There are ad hoc shifts, and then there are contract shifts. So for the past 11 plus years that I was doing the agency, for the most part of the 11 years, I was doing ad hoc shifts. So ad hoc meaning they will just send you to do one shift here or two shifts here and there. And then when it comes to the contract, so you are sent to a place on an extended period. So it could be a month or 2 months or 3 months, and you will be there. And depending on how long you are needed in that role, sometimes the contract comes to an end and then you need to find another place. Other times too, depending on the needs, they can extend your contract. So for me, for the past 5 years, I've been working in the same team, the same trust. I went into this role for a 3-month contract, and it got renewed, and I am still there. So it's 5 years, a little over 5 years, and I'm still there. So what are the pros and cons of working as an agency nurse? For me, the whole experience has been enriching. So let's start with the positives. Number one, flexibility. You get to choose where you want to work, which specialty you want to work, whether you are working in general nursing or mental health nursing. Under each of these specialties, there are various different kinds of areas you can work under. So you choose where you would like to work. You have that flexibility, you have that luxury to choose. Then also you choose when you want to work, you choose the shifts you want to work. If you want to work nights, you can choose that. If you want to work days or twilight shifts, you can choose, you pick whichever suits you. And also when it comes to taking time off, when you're permanent staff, you need to plan your annual leave around the needs of the ward or unit. But with this, if I want to travel or take some time off, I can just take my bag anytime and travel. I don't need to, go and strive for annual leave. Sometimes if you're permanent staff, you want to go on leave at a particular time, but because of the needs, service needs, you can go. Maybe there's somebody else on leave. So all that, minor restrictions, you don't get that. You are free. And also the fact that you can choose whether you can do ad hoc shifts or you can, do contracts depending on your individual need, and you can do that. So that's a plus. Then also the other advantage is you learn a lot. And I always say that as an agency nurse, it's a privilege, especially when you are doing ad hoc shifts. I can't count the number of hospitals that I've worked in throughout London, and the different wards, different specialties. It opens your eyes to, different specialties. And if you are somebody who is curious and you want to learn, you will learn a lot. You will learn about the systems, you will learn about pathways, care pathways for different conditions. And so that is an added advantage. And I always say that it's a privilege because there's no other role that will enable you to go to different places, just go and be part of the team and learn. You get that passport, you get that chance to go everywhere. So I believe that alone is also an advantage that as an agency nurse you can, take advantage of and learn to your own benefit. The other advantage, which I can say possibly the biggest advantage, is the money. Agency rates are higher and it's good money, and it's all about how many hours you work. So the more you work, the more money you get. But then also has its downside, when I'll talk about when I get to the negatives. Yes, so the money is good. There are different kinds of nursing agencies and they all have different rates. So what people do is they shop around, look at the rates, and then choose which agency they would like to work with. So yes, the money is a big plus. So now let's talk about the disadvantages. As I said in the positives, that the more you work, the more you get money. So the opposite is no work, no money. So no work, no pay, meaning you don't get any sickness pay. So let's say if you are sick for a week and you don't go to work, you don't get paid for that week. So if you have any bills to pay that week and you're not paid, yeah, think about that. The other disadvantage that is linked to what I've just said is overworking yourself. And I believe that as an agency or locum nurse, you need to be disciplined and you need to be able to say no and have your limits. What happens is, because you're earning more money, and even when people are tired, they don't take a break. They will just work and work and work to the detriment of their health. I've heard stories where people had gone on night shifts and driving in the morning, going home, and had accidents. And also people developing health conditions or stress or high blood pressure because they are not taking enough time to rest, because they are thinking about the money and working. And also linked to this is that it just dwindles people's aspirations because they are thinking about the money, so they are not thinking of developing themselves or doing a course or even applying for a higher band. It's just that work to get the money. So you really need to be disciplined and have a balance. So that is also a very big disadvantage when it comes to agency nursing, and so think about that. And the last but not the least of the disadvantages that I've listed is, I believe this may sound a bit controversial, but having worked as an agency or locum nurse for all these years, I think I have observed some things that I believe that sometimes this can be true. And as an agency nurse, sometimes you go to some places that it feels as if people don't expect much from you, that there's a low expectation from agency nurses. And I've heard, in the past where things have gone wrong and they will say, oh, because there was an agency nurse on the shift. And I'm not saying all agency nurses are, they are good and they are angels. But there is this thing about an agency nurse. I mean, I remember when I was working years ago in permanent role, when agency nurses will come on a shift when we needed people and we've asked for nurses. Yes, you would have to induct people because they don't know the ward, is their first time. You have to induct them, show them where things are, the layout of the ward, where they can find documentation, where they can find important things. And sometimes it feels like you are doing double work, you are working twice. But that is the nature of the situation when we don't have staff. Sometimes I have observed and experienced in the past, especially when I was doing those ad hoc shifts. Sometimes you go to an environment, you go to the ward, and it's like you're a stranger. It almost feels as if you have to work harder to prove yourself. I may be wrong, and let me know your comments about this. It's interesting when you are permanent staff, you are a good nurse, but wait till you go to another unit as an agency nurse, and then you will feel what I'm talking about. So yes, but having said that, there are great teams. I've also worked in places where people go the extra mile to make sure that you are welcome on the ward. They show you where things are. So I don't know, maybe it's human nature, is the people that you go and meet at a particular shift. But there are good teams out there that make people welcome. And talking about that, I just said that I worked in a team for the past 5 years. So what do you think made me stay there? It's a great team. And sometimes I think to myself that if I had the opportunity to work with the caliber of the team members that I work with now, I probably wouldn't have left the NHS 11 years ago. But hey, life happens, and it's been a great experience. I've loved every bit of it. I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot of new skills that I'm hoping to take to my permanent role, which I'll be starting very soon. So thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and also subscribe and share with your friends. Until I see you in the next one, take care and bye.